High levels of heat and humidity continue with more storm chances as we start the work week, but we are tracking much cooler and drier conditions. When to expect those highs back into the 80s coming up.
A child shot and killed by another child.
I didn't want to believe it. You never want to believe it, you know?
Why police say it was an accident and how the children are related.
I'm gonna miss you. I'm sorry. It's tough.
6 homicides in 6 days. Why one of the victims' brothers says he brought a gun to a vigil calling for peace.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Breslow.
And I'm Fallon Glick. Storms caused problems across the area today, including in the Beechmont neighborhood where several trees fell on houses.
No one was hurt, but several homes were damaged. Meteorologist Jeremy Capel tells us if we can expect any more severe weather tonight. Jeremy?
Hey, Josh, Fallon. Yes, we have some thunderstorms for parts of the area right now, but it's rather limited. Most of our metro counties now in the clear as far as the rain is concerned. But boy, we did have a nice batch of showers and thunderstorms rolling through central portions of our counties here this evening, and some of them did produce a bit of wind, especially there in southwest Louisville, where locally better than 2 inches of rain fell. That was out towards the PRP area earlier today. Very heavy rainfall for portions of southwest Louisville and some gusty winds to boot. 78 degrees on the thermometer right now. Winds are northeast at about 5 miles per hour. The thunderstorm activity limited for our northern counties here currently. 72 degrees on the thermometer in Lanesville currently at 76 degrees in Austin, 73 in E-Town right now. These temperatures are pretty comfortable, and we're going to bottom out tonight a little bit cooler than what we did yesterday, or I should say this morning. Now by afternoon tomorrow, it's going to feel a lot like it did today, perhaps a couple degrees cooler, but still hot and still humid as we warm those temperatures up through the 80s during the morning. We top out tomorrow at around 92 degrees. I don't think the thunderstorms will be quite as widespread tomorrow, but we still have storm chances going forward as we go into the first half of the next week to come. In fact, by midweek, I think that storm chance goes up. This is along a cool front that will bring much colder conditions. For a change, we're talking about a taste of fall. Let you know when to expect highs in the low 80s with low humidity coming up.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jeremy. The shooting death of a child caps off days of deadly gun violence in Louisville.
This time, though, police say the shooting was accidental and the boy's own brother pulled the trigger.
I didn't want to believe it. You never want to believe it, you know?
A close-knit community watched Sunday afternoon as part of Penway Avenue was blocked off.
I just saw all the police cars.
Detectives conducted interviews and gathered evidence in the Hallmark neighborhood, working to piece together the shooting death of a young boy.
He was the oldest, and he looked out for the other ones, his sisters and brothers.
Choosing to conceal her identity, this woman who lives a few houses down waited to learn more.
I just saw him yesterday and was talking to him right there on the corner right there.
LMPD says officers were initially called out for a person who shot himself, but after speaking with family, investigators determined the victim was accidentally shot and killed by his kid brother.
I was like, I didn't know what to think. I'm like, oh my God. He would be out playing with the kids and stuff, and they'd come down, I'd give them candy, popsicles, you know, all the time. I'm sure it won't be the same.
That woman tells me the victim was around 12 years old. His brother, she says, was even younger.
I just hate it. It's sad, you know, for the mother, the family, to see a child die like that.
And the coroner's office just confirmed that boy killed is 12 years old. He's been identified as Tremaine Brown Jr. The LMPD homicide unit is investigating. Detectives want to figure out how Brown's brother got that gun.
A 5-year-old boy was rushed to the hospital after reports of a possible drowning today. It happened in Pleasure Ridge Park around 5 this evening. Police say the child was found at the bottom of a pool and that he was visiting the home where the incident happened. Still no word on his condition.
A Louisville man is killed in a boating accident in southern Kentucky. It happened last night at the Lake Cumberland State Dock in Russell County. The name of that man has not been released just yet, but the coroner says the 64-year-old died after falling in the water and hitting a running boat propeller. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife is investigating. New details tonight in yesterday's shooting near 10th and Magazine Streets. The coroner has just identified the victim as 21-year-old Deontay Stokes. Police say he was shot just after 11 o'clock yesterday morning. He died later at University Hospital. Showing up with guns to a vigil for homicide victims.
WDRB's Travis Ragsdale explains why some say after a week of violence, they didn't have a choice. Travis.
Found they say it's because they're now worried about their own safety after this recent string of shootings in their neighborhood. Balloons fly to the sky.
It's going to be tough for a while.
This vigil at Shelby Park Sunday was for Cameron Pugh and Larry Brewer. Both were shot and killed Thursday afternoon in the Shelby Park neighborhood.
Life's supposed to be long. You're supposed to have longevity. This shouldn't be happening.
On Wednesday, 3 people were shot just a few blocks away. A 14-year-old was killed, and since then, a 16-year-old has been charged with murder. A day before that, Sean New says his brother Jordan was the victim of a shooting on Camp Street near Shelby Park.
Obviously, the support of friends and family is getting me through this. Slowly but surely.
New, with a pistol on his hip, said the guns need to be put down, but he says he doesn't have a choice.
I carry because it happened at home. It hit my doorstep. I can't take that chance. I shouldn't have let. I feel bad I wasn't there to protect my brother.
A vigil and balloon release for New was held Sunday as well. LMPD had a strong presence at both vigils. Friends say New, Brewer, and Pugh were all close friends. For their families, last week was the worst they can remember.
Like the whole city is grieving. Just the whole year has been crazy.
I'm glad to see all the Cameron's loved ones out here showing their appreciation, to the family.
It might have hit Cameron Pugh's cousin Christopher hardest of all, but seeing his friends and family on Sunday helped.
I'm gonna miss you. Sorry.
He says what's happened this past week can't go on. Otherwise, he says this will happen again soon.
It's not worth it. This just be an endless cycle. You'll have another balloon release next week. If this continues to happen, it has to stop.
In the case of Pugh, Brewer, and New, police have not made any arrests. If you have any information about those 3 cases, you're urged to call the anonymous tip line. The number there, 574-5673. We're live at LMPD headquarters. Travis Ragsdale, WDRB News.
Travis, thank you. A Scott County man is facing murder charges after shooting into a home. Kentucky State Police say Michael Davidson shot and killed a minor inside the home around 4 yesterday morning. The juvenile died at the scene. Davidson was later arrested in Franklin County after he led police on a chase. A 21-year-old gets aggressive with a police officer after being told to leave Nowhere Bar on Bardstown Road.
According to an arrest report, Jeffrey Gamble tried to re-enter the bar, and that's when he was escorted out. Police say he argued with officers who tried to arrest him. He's accused of pushing a detective into a light pole and fence, ripping off his body camera, and said, quote, "That's why all you police are being killed and you're next," end quote. Gamble is charged with disorderly conduct, menacing, resisting arrest, and assaulting an officer. Well, UK head coach John Calipari's charity foundation has raised more than $1 million so far this year and raised even more tonight in Lexington that had some fans weathering the storms.
And Mike Lissette is here now to tell us how the coach brought out the stars.
Yeah, Calipari wanted to do a charity event at Rupp Arena, but since that facility was undergoing some construction, Cal says he reluctantly decided on a softball game. Safe to say it was the right call. He teamed up with former Cat Carl Anthony Towns to organize it. Cal and the current players gathering before the game to talk with some of the 80 patients who are receiving hearing aids as part of a charity program. Then it was on to the field where Cal and assistant coach John Robick suited up along with former UK alums and some famous UK fans for the softball event.
We decided to do it, and then Louisiana happens, and now you got a cause. So I think today we'll raise about $250,000 that we'll send down, and with Papa John's doing a pizza promotion, this could get to $500,000.
You know, for me to have this softball thing with Coach Cal, it makes a big difference because we always wanted to do something for charity. We all know how charitable Coach Cal is with his foundation as well, and we came up with a great idea to do something like this for a lot more people than ourselves, but for all of Kentucky and a lot of foundations around the world.
And we'll see more of the action from the softball game coming up in sports.
Looks like a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Mike.
Well, we've all heard about the Nicolas Cage movie filming around Louisville.
That's right, we have. And now there's another location you might recognize when you see that movie. DeSales High School says crews were at the school filming for the movie Mom and Dad today. The high school posted these pictures on its Facebook page this morning. The movie also stars Selma Blair. It's expected to be released sometime next year, and you can bet that most of us will go see that after we've heard so much about it. Well, its goal is to keep drunk drivers off the road.
But a new Kentucky law is causing some courtroom confusion.
And they chose to drive drunk anyway. And now they're looking for a way to unwind their conduct.
How the legislation affects people who have been convicted of DUIs and why some judges are not sold on the new law.
Plus, a man is rescued just in time. The shocking video as he's saved from being hit by an oncoming train.
And the final preparations are underway when Resurfaced is set to open and the unique feature being introduced this fall.
Controversy and questions are swirling around a new law that's meant to get repeat drunk drivers off the road.
In this week's Sunday edition, WDRB's Danielle Lama and Jason Riley explain why there's confusion in Kentucky courtrooms.
Just a few weeks after Breonna Taylor graduated from Elizabethtown High School, this happened. A drunk driver plowed into her car, leaving it mangled and crushed. The 17-year-old didn't survive. Officials call the man who crashed into her a habitual drunk driver. It's tragic cases like this that led to a change in Kentucky law. Prosecutors used to go back only 5 years into a drunk driver's criminal history. Now that look-back period is 10 years, and a longer history of DUIs can lead to stiffer penalties for each new charge. For example, a fourth offense becomes a felony.
Blair Phillips.
The new law went into effect on April 9th, and it's coming up in the courtroom. Take this case. Court records show Blair Phillips was arrested for DUI just over 5 years ago, and she was arrested for drunk driving again on April 15th.
I will be issuing a ruling at that point for sure.
So if this new one counts as her second, her license would be taken away while the case is pending.
I ruled against you.
The judge, seen in this grainy court video, ruled that the earlier DUI can be held against Phillips under the new law. But the outcome of this issue really seems to depend on what courtroom you're in. Another judge inside the Hall of Justice recently ruled the opposite way. The question of whether the new law is retroactive is being asked in courtrooms across Kentucky. Legislators didn't include it in the bill, leaving judges to decide for themselves.
Once you've got an agreement, is it okay to change the terms of that agreement?
Louisville defense attorney Greg Sims represents Phillips. He says the new law should not be retroactive. Sims argues people who have pleaded guilty to DUIs in the past did so only after being told it would be held against them for 5 years.
These people have done that time, they have paid their bill, and they have gotten right with the law. And now they're saying, oh, we lied.
And they chose to drive drunk anyway. And now they're looking for a way to unwind their conduct.
But to Jefferson County Attorney Mike O'Connell, the law is clear.
There are 2 Supreme Court cases that have addressed the issue of enhanced penalties and look-back periods.
He says the longer look-back period kicked in for people arrested for DUIs after it became the law. And that's how at least one sponsor of the bill sees it too.
So it certainly was made to be retroactive that the previous DUIs would stay on their record when the new law took effect.
But Sims says it should have been made explicit in the legislation, and he hopes to get the ruling in Phillips' case overturned.
Our case may be setting the law.
As attorneys look to curb the look-back law timeline, and others fight to get stricter punishments for repeat drunk drivers right away. Danielle Lama, WDRB News.
So could legislators clear up the confusion, and could past DUI cases be reopened if old convictions are now being used in court? WDRB.com reporter Jason Riley answers those questions right now in his story on WDRB.com.
A Louisville man is accused of stealing from an elderly woman, but that's not all. Early yesterday, officers say Brian Hurt was found passed out in a car on someone else's property. An arrest report indicates the 26-year-old took more than $300 in foreign money and collector coins from a woman who hired him to cut her grass. Police also found drug paraphernalia and prescription pills in a bottle that also belonged to that woman. Hurt was already wanted on a warrant for escaping from the Community Correctional Center in Louisville.
Jeremy Capple's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
I know we've entered the last of August, but boy, summer is still in full strength out there today. A ton of heat, a ton of humidity, and by the end of the day, that resulted in these towering cumulus clouds that developed across the region. This photo by Jim Day out in Windy Hills in eastern portions of Jefferson County. That's right before the thunderstorm rains began, and because they came so late in the day, it did result in a lot of photographs of rainbows and double rainbows. This one here by Trudy Strupp out there in Shelbyville. I had a whole bunch of these photos submitted to both the weather app and also our Facebook pages. This is Katie Keene out on the Salt River. Pretty vivid looking rainbow there. Pretty shot too, Katie. I appreciate that. Paul Hilp out in Lebanon, Kentucky. Not to be outdone, also catching that double rainbow. Had a whole bunch of these photos submitted to my WDRB page on Facebook from the PRP area. I mean, I must have had at least a half dozen, but good looking photographs. Take a look at that temperature today, 96 degrees. By the way, it's interesting. That's the warmest we've been all year. Now, we hit 95 several times back in June and July, but we haven't hit 96 until today. And you can see that's almost a full 10 degrees above normal. We started off this morning at 75 degrees. Thunderstorms started early to mid-afternoon for central eastern Kentucky out towards the Bluegrass region. And then we saw what we call an outflow boundary blast from, that's right, east to west across the area today. And that was the focus for many heavy downpours and thunderstorms. At last check, most of the activity has exited the viewing area. We've got showers exiting our northeastern counties. A lot of rain out towards Cincinnati, Florence, Kentucky. One heavy thunderstorm remains north of Highway 50, northern portions of Jackson County. And thunderstorms remain to our west out towards the Wabash River Valley. This activity should die off here during the remainder of the overnight period tonight. But we are expecting some redevelopment tomorrow. Now, temperature tomorrow probably a few degrees cooler than what we saw today. Now, I think our model may be biasing a little cool here. They're showing a high of 90 tomorrow in Louisville. I'm going 92. So upper 80s to around 90 degrees for much of the area tomorrow. Thunderstorms again during the afternoon and evening hours, but I think they're going to be a little bit more widespread, or I should say scattered in nature. 78 right now. It feels like it's at about 80. You see those temperatures, 70s elsewhere across the area. Bermuda high pressure parked off to our east right now. That's going to remain the focus for heat, humidity, and that possibility of additional storms on the backside of that high. We're seeing that flow out of the south. Eventually, that's going to result in more thunderstorm chances here as we head towards tomorrow afternoon, and certainly, I think, a better chance into the middle of the week. 74 tonight, patchy areas of fog. 92 tomorrow. Another hot one, but perhaps a few degrees cooler than what we saw today. That rain chance about 30% tomorrow. We go down a bit on Tuesday as far as rain coverage is concerned. Still hot, still humid. We keep it on going into the middle of the week. Wednesday, low 90s, but we increase that storm chance here Wednesday. That's ahead of a cold front. That's really going to drop the temperature for the end of the week. Coming up in about 15 minutes, I'll let you know when to expect those highs in the low 80s with low humidity.